Welcome back, everybody. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And today, my curiosity was piqued by a quote I saw that called dabs the crack of marijuana. And look, no article I've written has generated as much controversy as one I originally entitled The Danger of Dabs. It came out late 2011 in Kush magazine. High Times reprinted it in May of 2012, called it The Dawn of the Dab. And my thesis was, the danger of dabs isn't so much physical as it is a public relations nightmare. And a theme that's developed from just a couple of news reports last week reveals how the media are framing butane hash oil as the latest dangerous drug endangering our teenagers. It started with ABC 15 in Phoenix. They ran a story last Monday that was entitled Dabbing, the New Drug of Choice for Teens? Following a brief explanation of what butane hash oil is, without ever mentioning it is essentially marijuana, the bulk of the story features Shane Watson, a rehab counselor and a recovering addict, explaining how awful his life became because of BHO. The story even warns parents what to look for if their child is making dab without mentioning that the marijuana is needed to make it. The entire construction of the article is to separate hash oil from marijuana conceptually, to paint dab as some different drug entirely. By Tuesday, ABC2 in Baltimore, ABC7 in Denver, and ABC5 in Cleveland have re-aired the story. On Wednesday, ABC23 in Bakersfield and ABC10 in San Diego repeated the story. The dab aired all over the country as any ABC affiliate needing a sensational filler story out of Arizona went and replayed the footage. Now, by Thursday, the ABC 15 story made the leap into internet media as a screen grab for a story that was entitled Dabbing, Dangerous New Drug Seized in Maryland, and this appeared in the Tosin Patch. The story features the subtitle, This is the Crack of Marijuana, one official quoted a user as saying of the concentrated butane hash oil. The crack of marijuana. Now, this official was supposedly Sergeant Mike Connor of the Maryland State Police, and he allegedly goes on to say, quote, "It's so potent, it is dangerous. People claim you can't overdose on marijuana. In fact, you can. It's so strong, they are passing out," end quote. Well, this crack of marijuana quote then gained some traction when it was reprinted in the Baltimore News Journal on Saturday. And then just today, in a story called The Best Worst Marijuana in the World is Spreading Like Weeds, which appeared in the Fredericksburg Patch, says the crack of marijuana. They had that quote in there from Sergeant Connor. And that was followed by the lead paragraph that read, quote, "A powerful concentrated form of marijuana is quickly gaining popularity among the East Coast. But unlike typical marijuana, it may carry the risk of overdose." So, for reference, the story then cites California Normal's Dale Gearinger, who was writing in O'Shaughnessy's, which is the Journal for Medical Cannabis, that, quote, "Increased use of BHO has led to an increase in hospitalizations for cannabis overdose," end quote. This guy from California Normal, folks. And I can attest to the fact that I've never seen people pass out and get wheeled away on stretchers for smoking flowers, like I have seen at events when they're smoking dabs. And then, of course, there's my own personal experience with a too big glob that left me puking my guts out all over a Los Angeles sidewalk. But the term overdose is very misunderstood by the public. When people think overdose, they think OD and they think death. However, many people have experienced overdoses, from the gal who can't sleep from too much coffee to the guy with a throbbing headache from a hangover. Look, passing out is a serious concern, but that can happen from liquor. And nobody is calling Jack Daniels the crack of beer. For that matter, calling anything the crack of is metaphorically inaccurate, since crack and cocaine are the same drug and have the same addictive potential and the same overdose potential. That whole Reagan-era one hit and you'll be addicted line turned out to be as much of a myth as the so-called crack babies. Look, as this dab phenomenon sweeps eastward, more local news affiliates are also reporting the stories of exploding motel rooms and apartments from the latest ignorant butane hash oil maker. Just yesterday, 2 stories made the evening news in Fresno and San Diego. Please don't make the news this way. There is nothing quite like a moral panic to set back years of progressive momentum. Ask anyone affiliated with marijuana decriminalization in the 1970s. Even the most live and let live minded neighbor who won't mind a pot smoker or a closet grow isn't going to abide potential explosions. Even the woodstockiest parents and grandparents aren't going to identify with blowtorches and passed out teens. We must redouble our efforts to educate the public that just as profit-seeking bootleggers blew up the occasional still to make concentrated alcohol under Prohibition, so too will profit-seeking hash makers operate unsafely until the activity is regulated and the Prohibition profit margins are reduced. We must ensure that people understand BHO is just concentrated marijuana. Don't let the media promulgate this misunderstanding that dabs is somehow a new, different, dangerous drug, and call them out anytime they try to compare it to crack. Well, all this talk about BHO and dabs makes me want to have one. Don't got any here today, unfortunately. We're just going to have to stick with good old-fashioned joints. So, light them if you got them. We'll be back.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he